Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 963 of our daily content grind, and it is the first of the month, which means it is time once again to get a Q&A video out of the way. So, if you are unfamiliar to this, every month I let you guys use the comment section of one of these videos to ask me literally anything you want, so long as you follow these simple rules. Only one question per person, so everyone can get a turn. Quick answer questions only. Don't ask me to create an entire toy line on the spot. Don't ask me to create a brand new cartoon on the spot. You will not get an answer. I'm sorry. I need to keep it moving. Everything needs to be within TOS, no profanity. Basically, read the room, respect the vibe. And then, if you're just leaving a comment, please mark it as such so we don't read things that aren't questions and we can get through this as quick as possible. The last video was almost 2 hours long, so we need to keep that to an absolute minimum. So if you're going to post something below for the next Q&A, please respect those criteria. And with that, let us begin. This is first comment is already a comment unmarked. But thank you for letting me know the gun was in the second Sonic movie. I haven't seen it yet. Let's see. How would you feel if a modern live-action interpretation of RC made her a mostly black car with pink accents? This way she can become an accurately scaled car, since primarily black cars are very common. So, with this, I really don't mind. Like, especially if it's the movie doing it, I wouldn't mind seeing her in those color schemes. You know, as long as the robot presented more pink than the vehicle mode does. I mean, it would look cool. I mean, again, it just kind of depends on how well the design is executed. I really don't mind what alt mode RC tends to get, car or motorcycle. Depends on the story that and just how it works. I don't know. It could be a nice idea. It'd avoid Hasbro's worry of like selling a pink toy. In shows like Prime, Cyberverse, and Earthspark, Shockwave kept his Cybertronian mode while on Earth. If you could pick an Earth mode for him, what would it be? I thought about this one. Probably an Apache helicopter. So, in a way that Megatron replaced his gun mode with, like, the biggest rolling weapon that he could possibly pick, I would do the same thing with Shockwave, except as an aerial weapon. Kind of complementing Megatron. Or opposing him, depending on the story. But I think a big, heavily armed helicopter would work. Will you get Cybertronian versions of main Bayverse robot characters in Transformers Studio Series? Probably not. Not unless they have concepts of what they looked like on Cybertron. But we never saw it on screen, and they really didn't have any reason to create that, so I don't think we're going to ever see that. The Cybertronian versions exist for the Bumblebee movie because we got a scene on Cybertron. Simple as that. So I don't expect it to go beyond that. Unfortunately, there's plenty of directions that they could still go in for Studio Series without having to go to like made-up Cybertronian concepts. Okay, so we got a lot. We got prologues. We got things. I initially wanted to ask you about your green M logo, but if I wanted to discuss that, it wouldn't be cryptic now, would it? So let's get to the actual question. What would you rather want to see? A Transformer collaborator based on Night of the Living Dead franchise, which had a few very prominent vehicles and characters in each of the films, or a brand new figure that's a revamped version of the Spark Eater from IDW 1.0. I don't like the idea of a Night of the Living Dead crossover. Number one, because it's not like a campy horror movie like, Dracula. It's not like it's a classic, but for different reasons. And like more modern interpretations of zombie movies are probably not appropriate to make a kid's toy with. I'd much rather, any time I'm given the opportunity to get a character out that does not have a toy yet, I'm down for that. So a Spark Eater, I think, would be more appropriate choice. Also, there are prominent vehicles in Night of the Living Dead, but let's be honest, it ain't a movie or a franchise known for its vehicles. Let's be fair about that, right? I do appreciate the comment that I'm a comfort YouTuber for you. I'm glad you enjoy the voice. Glad that you enjoy me keeping it calm. You clearly haven't watched Plastic Addict, because I am anything but calm there. There's an addendum at the bottom as well. I'm just going to say, you don't have to say if you're intoxicated while typing. Yeah, just don't do that. Don't do that. It's just really not a place for that. See, read more, please. So we get a new animated Bumblebee, and we know we're getting a Wasp. Is there any other random animated repaint you'll want to see from that mold, since there are so freaking many? I mean, Glyph and Tap Out are always the go-tos for me when we go to any Bumblebee mold. Yeah, I would love to see that. Obviously, Cliff Jumper is another pick that we could get. It's pretty much the standard stuff as far as, like, animated Bumblebees go. I wouldn't mind a Shattered Glass at some point. I wouldn't mind a Shattered Glass. But no, like, yeah, I think I like go with the consensus here. Glyph and Tap Out really need new toys. They really do. Do you think we'll ever get another 2D Transformer show? If we do, it's not going to be a main series. I feel like they're comfortable doing CGI, and there's a lot of advantages to doing them as CGI cartoons that I don't really expect them to want to go away from. If we do get another 2D, it's going to be either something that's very retro-based, like a special of some kind, or it's going to be another kid-centric series like Rescue Bots. I think like the idea of two-dimensional Transformer shows, I think, is over. You know, unless we get like crazy and start doing like you know, and start incorporating like big Japanese anime companies like Trigger, but we're not going to afford Trigger, so we're not going to ask about that. In regards to the recent video of the Energon toy line, which one of the basics and deluxe figures would be most likely for a new figure? So for the basics, I would say your most likely choices are going to be probably from like the Autobot side, probably RC or Strong Arm, and then the Decepticon side, most likely Dive Bomb. I would almost say Battle Ravage, but I feel like Dive Bomb went over a little bit better and is a little bit more standout and unique. And then for the deluxes, you know it'd be Hotshot. You know they would do him. My personal pick would be either Prowl or Rodimus. Rodimus had a really unique design. And then Starscream for the Decepticons. I feel like Rodimus and Starscream would both be like scaled up to Voyager in a modern toy, especially if they didn't bother with the power linking design. But that's kind of where I sit on those. Suppose you had to pick one character for the G1 Autobot cast to be the Autobot equivalent of a Seeker. Their mold gets repainted a bunch of times into a number of characters equivalent to the show. So we already have that. Or haven't you noticed what they've been doing with Sideswipe? You know, we've got, what, Clampdown, Deep Cover, Tiger Track, Red Alert, the G2 version of Sideswipe. That's just becoming the go-to mold. You know, we're also getting that mold as Armada Wheeljack and Shattered Glass, you know, or I guess Shattered Glass Sideswipe. And then we're gonna get it as Armada Wheeljack as well. It's also the basis for the Gigawatt mold. So that mold's gotten around a lot. I really think that's just become the Seeker of the Autobots at this point. Which dead Blur figure would you want? That's a little morbid, Queen. But okay, fair. Rusted Cyberverse Blur, Melted Shattered Glass Blur, Exploded IDW Blur, TFA Blur Cube. I don't think a melted figure would be that exciting. No. The option here would be the Blur Cube. You do it, you get Beastbox on that and tell them make an animated Blur. I would, like, there's the crossover I didn't realize I needed until you asked this question. See, there are a number of Transformers whose designs and color palettes are deliberately made to evoke clothing. Are there any in particular that stand out to you? If so, which was your favorite and why? The ones that kind of stand out to me are not for the most positive of reasons. So, things like Crosshairs from Age of Extinction and his duster coat. I don't like that thing. I think it makes all of the toys on it worse. So that one comes to mind. If there's one that I do like, it's the little bow on animated Swindle. Just kind of push that like Texas used car salesman vibe that they're kind of like sneaking into him. That one was clever. I really like that one. Don't apologize for the video length. It is a long video. It's a long video. Don't get me wrong. Do you think we might see deluxe compatible transforming exosuits in future Commander or Titan class? Really like to get my hands on a Cybernaut or a Line Apex armor. So, number one, I don't know why you went to Titan class. Because there's no reason why it would be that big. See, this is the thing, is like the second something, I feel like people in these questions jump to Titan class to get figures made way too often. Titan class isn't appropriate for something that, you know, a deluxe figure would be able to go inside. Commander would be the appropriate, but I genuinely don't think we're going to get it, because that's a lot of production and development into something that technically isn't a character and doesn't have that many appearances or any personality of its own. It would be a cool play pattern, but you'd have to include a deluxe along with it, so you didn't just get like an exosuit you couldn't play with on its own. I think there's too many logistics involved to make that work out, unfortunately. As much as I wouldn't mind having like the Apex armor and a little Miko inside, I think that's the best we get. Just like a deluxe class version of that has like a Miko in the cockpit. I don't think we're going to get much more than that even if we're going to go in that direction for the, to actually make the Apex armor. I don't anticipate it anyway. If Transformers made an advent calendar, how would it work? So the idea Mecha has here is actually pretty good. 3 weaponizers, 8 pieces each. Each would work as a standalone weapon, and then you get full bots after 8 days. That's actually a pretty cool thing. And to also have like a theme to them and have a combined mode, that's all like a really, really strong idea. I actually like that a lot. It's better than my idea was, which was just going to be like just 3 deluxes and a bunch of weapons. Not as interesting, not as exciting. Yeah. You know what would work really good for a Transformers Advent calendar? Bots. Just have a bunch of Christmas-themed bots in one big Advent calendar. That would have been perfect, but it's one of those things they never went to for bots and missed the boat, because that's a whole sub-franchise. It's basically dead at this point. If you were asked to create a line for a new series or movie or whatever, what 5 Autobots, 5 Decepticons would you pick? Here you go. Don't ask me to do an entire pitch. Don't ask me to create a roster. Don't ask me for something that's going to take me a long time to think up, because that's not going to fly. That's just going to take too long. I will tell you that aside from the main ones that you would have to have in the cast, just for my sake, because I love the characters and I don't think they get enough attention, my Autobot side would include Trailbreaker, my Decepticon side would include Reflector. And I'm going to leave it at that, okay? Just so we're not sitting here, me going, trying to come up with 10 different characters that are the right mix. Yeah, no long answers, no full anything, no full rosters of things, please. Would Overlord make a good Titan or Commander figure? See, case in point, I just mentioned this. The second anyone thinks about a character that's even slightly larger than modern leader figures, people immediately want to jump to Titan, and I don't know why. That it's entirely way too big. At most, a brand new Overlord should be a Commander, because it should scale with Deathsaurus from HasLab. I think he would make a really good Commander figure. It'd be big enough to have ramps in his base mode, which would be really, really cool. That said, I think the Titans Return Overlord is actually really nice. I actually really like that as an Overlord figure, if I'm being completely honest. Would I like it to be bigger and scale with the other Japanese bots we got now? Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's sufficient. But no. I don't know why people jump to Titan. I don't know why people jump to Titan. Titans are for, like, Transformers large enough for other Transformers to fit inside the way you and I fit inside a mall, you know? Like, it has to, like, that size. Like, giant space cruisers. Cities. Not something that has a base mode. Cities. Gigantic characters. Not just like, oh, he's kind of big. If you could paint the moon to look like the Death Star, Unicorn, or Cybertron, which would you pick? I don't think the Death Star would be that noticeable, and Unicron would be terrifying. I would love to have a little Cybertron floating around. I'd pay more attention to the moon that way. Do you think with the missing link line, Takara will not only add articulation, but fix characters to make them more animation accurate, such as Ratchet and Ironhide, by adding heads to them that could integrate into the vehicle modes? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. That completely goes against the entire point of Missing Link, where the whole point of Missing Link is to take the figure the way it was in 1984 and re-engineer it to have modern articulation. That's all it is. If they were to try to make them more cartoon accurate, you might as well buy a Generations figure. That's not what they're going for. What they're going for is to have the original toys with modern engineering and articulation. And that's it. Just so the old toys could move and pose the way you wish they always could. And to do anything outside of that, I think goes against the spirit of it. So no, I don't think they're going to do anything to make them more accurate. Maybe they include attachable heads for Ironhide and Ratchet. But honestly, I actually kind of think those are kind of going to be low on the totem poles, like far as like Missing Link figures goes. I think priority is going to take on like the big characters, you know, Megatron, Soundwave, Starscream, Bumblebee's on the way. I can easily imagine Dinobots in Missing Link because the original molds are gone. It's going to be a while before Ratchet and Ironhide are considered. If Transformers did a crossover release with Pokemon, what would you prefer? A Charizard molded from Legacy Megatron, Pikachu molded from Rat Trap, or a Pokedex molded from Earth Mode, Soundwave, or Blaster? I really like the idea of a Pokedex that turns into Soundwave or Blaster. That's actually really clever. That's actually really clever. Now, I didn't check. I don't really read these because I want to be very reactionary and very honest with my answers. So the fact that I just did a Pokemon Transformer video is kind of hilarious. We talked about Pikachu from Rat Trap. I think Rat Trap has the wrong posture and it has the wrong overall shape for Pikachu. It's much closer just to Rattata. But for what I would prefer, Charizard molded from Legacy Transmetal 2 Megatron. That's almost perfect. What's your opinion on some Transformer characters and toys being repurposed? IG Titans Return, Fracas as Marvel Chronix. I don't really mind it so much, just because it's a way of giving you a visual representation, especially in like a prose story that is just text. You need some kind of visual for your head to wrap around for that figure. So I wouldn't mind. I don't really mind it so much, especially because a lot of minor characters are never going to have actual examples of their own. If you swept your long hair from the back to the front so that it closely framed your face, you might bear a slight resemblance to Sam Kinison. I like to think I'm something of a comedian, so being compared to Sam Kinison is nice, but I wish it was for something other than my hair. This compels me to request an impression of the late comedian. For example, Sam finding gold plastic in his Goldbug figure. So, Steve, unfortunately, that's not really a question. That's a request, and I'm not going to do requests for these. I'm trying to answer questions people want to hear my opinion about. But more than that, these videos tend to be very, very long, to the point where I will actively drink water on camera and not really care, because I have to do something to keep my throat from dying. And if I try to do a Sam Kinison rant, my voice will be gone for the rest of the night, and I can't afford to do that, unfortunately. I still have a lot more questions to read. So I'm sorry I'm not getting to this. But, you know, respect for the Sam Kinison reference, though. 3 people telling me that they named Gun in Sonic 2. We might have to keep track of that. What do you feel about the idea of Beast Wars characters, but they have vehicle modes and their robot modes have animal characteristics? You're almost describing trans tech at that point. I'm not a fan of that because the robot mode is such their visual identity that switching that up, I think, would just, like, rob me of any, like, desire to own the toys. Like a rat trap with a rat head in robot mode. No, nothing about that kind of appeals to me. Like, I want to see Rat Trap. I want to see the character. I think you'd have better luck with vehicle modes that have like slight animalistic elements to them. Like almost like animated Cheetor did, because that toy had spots in the vehicle mode. That kind of thing. Why do you think Tigatron and Airazor were so abruptly written out of the show in Season 2? And would you do a video talking about what would have gone differently in the series if they hadn't? So, the reason they were written out is because they had new characters on the way with brand new toys, and there's only so much space in the cast. Remember, the big advantage to Beast Wars and why it's so well written is because they didn't have too many characters to juggle at once. So, with brand new ones coming in, like Silverbolt and Quickstrike, they had to cull the herd a little bit. Not only in how many characters they had to focus on, but also in how many actors they could pay at the time, because the show didn't have the biggest budget for that kind of thing. So there's a few different reasons for why they got written out. Kids love fire trucks, police cars, and ambulances. Why isn't Protectobot Defensor more popular? For which we could expect a new toy of in 2028 after Generation Prime Trilogy. So I don't think it's the So there's a few reasons. So number one, Defensor really doesn't have that many appearances in the cartoon, so there's not a whole lot to draw nostalgia and memory on. Certainly not as many appearances as Superion and Devastator, for instance. But also you also have the problem of, like, what do you do with Groove? What do you do with a motorcycle that's the same size as your helicopter? I mean, most collectors aren't going to care about that, but Hasbro does for some weird reason. So, there's issues. There's definitely issues. Do you think HasLab would be the best place to get an official gun-style Megatron? My reasoning is because his lab is directed toward adult collectors. Okay. I feel like every Q&A, someone asks me, would this make Gun Megatron possible? And the answer is always the same. They have been telling us for over 30 years that a brand new Gun Megatron, especially a G1 Megatron, is legally impossible. And so many people try to find ways around that, and so many people try to find, like, exceptions. There is none. There is no exception. It's not going to happen. It's literally impossible. If they could do it, they'd have done it already, because it would be a guaranteed gold mine. It would be one of the best-selling Transformers they had ever made. So if they were going to do it, if they could legally do it, they'd have done it by now. HasLab is not different because it is adult collector directed. It is still producing a toy for the American market and falls under American toy laws, which includes no realistic guns. Megatron in his gun mode at this point is literally impossible. You need to drop it. Okay? I am going to respectfully ask that this particular question, just because I get it like almost every Q&A now. Please don't ask me about, would this make gun mode Megatron possible? I promise you, whatever idea you have, it won't. Because if it was possible, they'd have done it already. Simple as that. Whew. Okay. Can we get to things that I might actually be able to answer now, please? Since you brought up watching Sailor Moon when you were younger, who was your favorite scout? Gee, how awkward do we want to be here? I think it floated between Venus and Mars. Depended on just like how I think it depended on how mean Mars was at the time, because she was the hothead of the team. So like she mellowed out after a while, but there's a period where it's like, okay, now you've calmed down a little bit. Now I like your attitude. And then before that, it was definitely Venus. What's a figure that caught you off guard in a good way? A figure that you went in with low expectation for and came out a fan of? Probably Titan's Return Top Spin, because while it looked nice from photos, there was a part of me is like, it's a brand new version of one of the jump starters. How good could it be? You know? I genuinely just was not expecting it to really be all that great, because it's such a minor character. And lo and behold, it was one of my toys of the year. Like, it felt really big and really good for its price point. I like the Titan Return gimmick. I like the transformation. The transformation on it's great. You know, that became a really big favorite of mine, and I really did not expect it for that to be the case. So, yeah, you know, that's one of those where like I'm confident in that answer, which is rare. Who is your favorite Power Master based on toy alone, excluding Optimus and Overlord? Overlord is technically a God Master. Little bit of a loophole there. But to fit within the rules, I'm going to go with Double Dealer. Aside from just, like, I just really like that design. I like the triple changing aspect. It's two very radically different alt modes, which I think is cool. And yeah, the double engine gimmick I think is neat too. So, yeah. I really need to complete mine. I'm staring at mine and there's no chest on it, and I need to go ahead and just buy the chest piece. What character from the Unicron Trilogy would you like to see again in a cartoon? So you're probably going to expect me to say one of my favorites, you know, Cybertron, Hotshot, or Vector Prime. Vector Prime in a new cartoon would be pretty cool. Let me go with one that you probably wouldn't expect. I'm gonna say two names, but I think they actually are one character. It's Ransack and Crumple Zone. Because I really do view them as the bulk and skull of Transformers, and I would love for that to be a thing. I would love for them to come back and actually fit that role. Question, do you prefer the canon version of Order 66 or the Legends one? Okay, I don't know Star Wars all that well. I'm going to be very honest about that. I don't know the Legends version of Order 66. All I know is the canon, like, movie version. So, unfortunately, I can't answer that one for you. How would you approach a series after G1 Rebirth, or they did the X-Men 97 revival thing? So, this one's tricky. I really do like X-Men 97, but we also acknowledge that is not how the show would have continued, and it shows a lot of stuff that would never have aired on Fox Kids. Violence, there's mild profanity once in a while. You know that would never have actually aired in the original cartoon, so it takes me out of feeling like it's a genuine continuation. I would want it to feel like a genuine continuation of G1. Same writing style, same animation style, nothing like pushing the envelope because now we're making it for adults and nostalgia value. No, I want it to be made the exact same way it was made before. And I want it to feel like it's a genuine continuation. The hard part about it is getting living voice actors back, because like even Frank Welker and Peter Cullen don't sound like they did when they did Rebirth. So that one, even that part is tricky. But I would basically just do the same thing they did before. Come up with new story ideas for the existing cast. You know, figure out, you know, try to do the season 3 thing of like a continuous story, and give it some kind of ending, you know, instead of just Galvatron and Zarak flying off into space going, next time, Gadget, next time. But yeah, I would try as hard as I could to make it feel like an authentic continuation of season 4, not like, I know we're aiming it at adults now, so we're gonna be edgy. No. Let's see. What do you think happened to all the characters that were absent from Transformers the movie? Weren't confirmed dead or just didn't appear as much after Season 2. So, you remember in Season 3, after Transformers the movie, Cybertron's a really big place. It is very likely that they're just on different areas of the planet that we aren't observing at the time. I'm sure there's some that stayed on Earth, because Autobot City was still a thing. We never really got to re-explore it after the movie, but it still was a thing. They would be rebuilding it. So, I would say some would rebuild it. I'd say some would stay behind on Earth to rebuild, and some would probably return to Cybertron and take up, areas of the planet that we don't, we miss out on. Congrats on the 969 video streak. You're a few days early for it, but yes, funny number. How would you think they would do Energon Comics universe in Generations? Like, would they just do repaints or retools like Series 86 Ratchet gets a retooled front, Optimus gets a retooled right arm transformation, both are repaints, and would they call it Skybound Universe or Void Rival Universe? So, you phrase this weird. So it's Energon Universe comic in Generations. We know they've trademarked Void Rivals for toys, so they would likely be Void Rivals, probably Void Rivals Universe. Or Skybound Universe. I guess they could use that too. The characters in there are very much the G1 cast. Straight up to, like, for the most part, they're vehicle modes as well. So I don't really, I think RC being the exception, because she never had an Earth mode in G1. I really feel like I feel like they would really just be retools of existing figures. Optimus would likely just have a repainted arm. You'd see a lot of battle damage repaint because they are a lot rougher in those series. Yeah, I think it would mostly be repaint. I think that you're gonna get retools out of it. Let's see, Strong Arm is a pre-tool for SUV Prowl from late IDW1 and or Cybertron Red Alert. Good idea or not? For Strong Arm, no. I don't like that idea for Strong Arm because the front end is so different than Strong Arms. Because, like, Strong Arm should have a wider chest that's flat. You shouldn't have this, like, giant car, the front of a car sticking out of her torso. That's not her character profile. Also, in what you're suggesting, you're going to repaint a white character into another white character, so you're not going to get a whole lot of difference between the toys. I think that would be ultimately pretty repetitive, especially if you consider Armada Red Alert, because you're going from a white and blue character to a white and blue character. So I think Strong Arm's better left to have her own mold. Yeah. See, when it comes to new Transformers media, do you prefer they create new characters or use obscure characters in new ways? So, a lot of the answers that I provide, it really just depends on how well it's written. I loved what IDW 1.0 did with taking obscure characters and making them really big deals, like Swerve and Tailgate. If they have a really good idea for an obscure character in a modern cartoon or movie, absolutely, go ahead and have at it. But I do like a mix of good new characters. I really do enjoy Earthspark because it has the core characters you expect in a Transformer show, but the new characters it's come up with are really, really good characters. So I enjoy that aspect. It's best when it's a mix. Don't go too heavy on a new cast. Don't go too heavy on obscure characters. Don't go too heavy on, old favorites. Nice blend is where I think it works the best. Let's see. Do you think it would work to do a series like TF Animated, only with Optimus Prime as supreme leader back on Cybertron, while the series focused on a smaller team led by someone else as the main characters? You're almost describing Rescue Bots. This is almost what Rescue Bots is. Except if they had more, like, dramatic story that was more for older kids. I mean, it would work. outside of the fact that, you know, you would want Optimus Prime to have some more of a presence to it because he's the big character of the franchise. They're going to want to sell a toy or two. But just as an idea of, like, keeping Optimus as a sideline character and focusing on a different team, yeah, like, I would like that. If Hasbro and Nintendo did a collab, which Nintendo IP would you think Hasbro based the Transformers off of? I don't think it would be, like, one particular IP. I would love for them to do something Mario-based. You'd think Mario would be the most obvious. Unfortunately, there really isn't that much vehicular stuff in Mario outside of Mario Kart, which would be possible. Be a little bit weird. But you know, you need a Mario figure that could pilot it, and then you'd have to figure out how a go-kart transforms. So that could potentially work. What I think would be more interesting is if they did a mix. You know? Like, if they did a mix of what they have available. So, like, give me an F-Zero vehicle that's just a straight-up transformer. Give me a transforming R-Wing from Star Fox, you know? Like, mix it around, you know? Just hit a little bit of every Nintendo IP as long as you got the license, right? I think that would be a lot more fun. How would you modify the RID build team toys in order to give them a better combination form? I would most likely do away with the idea of having a wheel. I would do away with the idea of having a wheel in the back so that you could just rotate Wedge around and then start working them all into their new configuration. I think keeping that is one reason why, though, that build team comes out a little bit awkward. I think it'd just be way more solid if all of that was more manual and you didn't have to rely on that, like, triple connection point. You know, and just make it a little bit more standard combiner, you know? I mean, I hate to take away the uniqueness of it, but really, like, there's some points where that combination method and that gimmick is just a little bit too ambitious, and it's subtracting from the figure at that point. So yeah, and also another factor would be to bulk up Grimlock a little bit, especially in the treads, so the arms weren't so scrawny in combined mode. That would be another one. Weaponizers have used metal, bone, junk, and rock. Do you think animal and plant materials should be next? I don't really think so, because then you are asking people to pull apart plants and animals, which is not really behavior you want to encourage in a child. Let's put it that way. Now, we kind of know from, like, the listings that next year we don't have an Izer-style toy line. We don't have, like, a subset of figures that fit into, like, the Weaponizer thing. Now, that could always come back. They could always do it again later. But as of right now, we don't really have another one coming out. It looks like it's going to end with the faux Rock Lords, which I wouldn't mind. I think they've done everything they can with that gimmick at this point. You know, and if they did plants, it would give us a potential at Botanica, but you'd have a really, really hard time trying to ask a kid to buy a toy sunflower, or a toy petunia, or, you know, or a toy cactus. Even I balk at the idea of some of those. So unfortunately, I don't think it would work. Botanica still needs a toy. I just have no idea how you do it. If Hasbro tasked you to come up with a Transformers-themed April Fool's event, what would you do? Personally, I'd send toy reviewers and other content creators a box claiming to be Generations Beast Wars Neo Randy inside the box sealed vial of cold plastic dust. I don't think it'd be that extravagant. What I would probably do, I would probably hire on some of the really good customizers out there, like Grimlockamus, for instance, and I would have them do up some custom figures that are just the worst possible ideas you could have. And just do like an announcement stream of like, here's the next wave of stuff. And you just... like you just put out the figure and like, here's Soundwave as like a 1980s TV, just loosely painted onto his cassette, cassette player form, or she's like, I'm trying to think of examples like what would be like just really horrendously bad. Okay, we're releasing G1, we're redoing Studio Series Grimlock, but we're doing it as a collab with Barney the Dinosaur, so it's purple and green now. Things like that. Just like really, really, like ideas so bad people would be into them. But like, obviously, like, they aren't gonna make this. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's my gun Megatron. Like, April Fools, we're announcing a new gun Megatron. Oh no, sorry. Still illegal. Do you think there was ever a chance for a crocodilian beast mode for Beast Wars Megatron to work? Like, say, maybe the prehistoric gator stood toe-to-toe with the T-Rex, often won the scuffles. The thing is, I really don't think a crocodile, even a giant crocodile like that, is really that thrilling of a toy. And this comes from a Floridian. We got gators and crocs. And while I wouldn't mind a small figure based on them, asking that to be like a leader class figure and go toe-to-toe with, like more mobile animals and, more versatile ones, I think is a little much. Ultimately, I don't think Gator Megatron is really that good. I think it's too limiting, is what it is. I think it's just too limiting. Like, what do you do, like, in a beast mode fight as a croc? You take a bite, you miss. Oh, okay, I'm gonna bite again. You can't, like, when you're that low profile, you can't even ram Optimus Primal. If the Beast Wars cartoon creators had more of a budget, allowing them to include more characters from the toy line, who would you include? Honestly, you have the right ideas there. So Wolfang, Razor Beast, you've got some really solid choices there. I would absolutely include Snapper just because I want a turtle. Really what it would come down to is I would want them to include the characters they were originally supposed to include. So like Wolfang eventually got replaced by Cheetor, which turned out to be the right idea. But like, if I remember right, Insecticon and Razor Beast were supposed to be part of the cast. And I would really have wanted them to be restored so we would find out what that would have originally entailed. If I want personal choices, then yeah. Wolfang, Polar Claw, Snapper, really good choices. I'd probably throw in Manterror because I'm a sucker for a Mantis. See, your toy store is being attacked by yummies, but luckily you're Kamen Rider O's. However, you can't use full combos because a lot of your energy will be used up and you might pass out. To be fair, that's me most days at the toy shop, whether I'm O's or not. What combo are you using to combat the yummies and defend your store? You can use any core metal at your disposal. You can even use CSM exclusive ones. So, here's the thing. Here's the combo I never understood why they didn't do. So it would be Kuwagata, the stag beetle helmet, the stag beetle head one, and let's see, Unagi, the eel. And then I don't care about the legs because at that point I have two different forms that could electrocute everything around me. And I think like dual wielding electricity to make it even stronger. I never understood why they never did that. I never understood why they wouldn't do that. So it'd probably be that. I'd probably do Cheetah for the legs just so I had the speed to run around and just zap everything. Which show out of the Unicron Trilogy would you say had the best OST? Cybertron. Easily Cybertron. I thought the music in Superlink was on the boring side. It's like uneventful. I think Cybertron, if only for the intro and outro themes, I think Cybertron had some of the best songs ever produced for Transformers. Like, I literally get goosebumps when I listen to the original theme for Galaxy Force. It's so good. It's so good. And then like Call You is so good, and then Ignition is so good. Growing Up is so good. They're really good theme songs. Really good theme songs. What do you think of the Mercenary faction? Personally, they've been one of my favorites. I feel like it's how odd Mercenary Bounty Hunters type of character. Detritus, Lockdown, no faction. Look, okay. I think I answered this last month, but it's fine. Asking again. I think it's very underutilized. I think it could be an interesting element to throw in, and there's plenty of characters that would fit it. But unfortunately, I just don't think they've shown much interest in actually exploring it, which is a shame. It's a missed opportunity. Yeah, it's just there's a lot of things they could do with it, but they just really are very resistant to having more than one faction going around. Do you believe the Galvatron should be crazy or not? Depends on the story they're telling. I've seen sane Galvatron work in the Marvel comics, especially. I've seen insane Galvatron be fun. More to the point, I think he should be different than Megatron. In some aspect, he should be. Either more cruel, more insane, more violent, even smarter. Like, even if he was, like, more calculating than Megatron. As long as he's written to be different. Like, that's... Yeah, I think that's the most important thing about doing a Galvatron. Apologies as asked before, but could you ever see them doing a Titan-class transforming giant purple griffin toy? No. They're not going to charge $200 for a non-character that is just a really weird deep cut from G1. I've never understood the obsession with the giant purple griffin. It's literally one of the dumbest things in G1. There's no explanation to it. There's no reason why Megatron just wanted a big purple griffin ship one day. And it never really did anything. You know, it never transformed. There's no indication it was ever going to be a robot or anything. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people are obsessed with that purple griffin. And again, people jump into Titan, but at least this time it's a ship. At least this time it's a ship, so it makes more sense. See, I really appreciate all the hard work that goes into your videos. Making daily content and keeping up with the algorithm must be exhausting. I just want you to know I really appreciate your content and dedication to the fandom. Thank you. Thank you for that. I look back and realize, like, it's scary to me that now, officially, next month, I will be doing the 1,000th video in this streak, which is absolute insanity to me. I cannot believe I made it this far. And I made it this far thanks to you and you guys and your support, and I thank you for it. You know, I appreciate your dedication to what I do. Whether you're on Patreon or just watching, means the world to me. Lets me continue. I want to continue. If you guys are still here, I want to keep going. So, thank you very much for that. Who is the best Transformer in terms of alt mode? Also, you sold me on Cybertron Starscream. I better. It's one of the best designs ever. Just got a really good toy. I mean, you kind of nailed it. You know, I love that design. I love that take on the Tetrajet. I absolutely love that Starscream. I think it's a very powerful jet. Still keeps it sleek. The sleekness. It looks very fast despite how bulky it is. Yeah, just in terms of alt mode, I love Cybertron Starscream's alt mode. If we're being more like, I'm trying to think if there's anyone that also like really strikes me as like, oh my god, that's just such a cool alt mode. You know, as far as just like an individual Transformer goes, nothing's coming to mind right now. Keep in mind, it's very late at night. My brain is not working on full bars. We are pushing through this because I don't want anything to happen in this video go up like super late like it did last time. Because we're getting official LEGO Transformers, do you think LEGO will make a new TF subline where the Transformers are in minifigure scale and the sets would be more affordable? I don't necessarily think so. If only because I don't know what you would do for sets. Like, okay, you do the bridge, you do the arc, the home base of the Autobots. You do you do like the Decepticon base, maybe a Cybertron set, but really, you know, you don't really have that many interesting locales. You know, you could do Autobot City, you could do Metroplex in base mode, then people would want it to transform, which they could do. But more than that, to do them as a minifigure scale with sets that are just like displays and all that, you take away the transformation aspect, which I think is a big deal. You don't realize how big of a deal it is that that Lego gets to make transforming Transformer toys. That is extraordinarily rare, and it's only because it's Lego do they get away with that. Everyone else who's ever licensed Transformers, almost none of them have gotten to do transforming pieces. So as long as Lego has the right to do that, by all means, stick to it. Let's see. Thank you for the congratulations. Thank you very much. Another Cybertron lover. Do you see Hashtag doing another Cybertron Optimus Galaxy Convoy in either Commander class or HasLab, since they didn't reissue the line or most of the Unicron Trilogy back then? I would expect them to do Cybertron Optimus either as a Commander or a HasLab. If they do a HasLab, I can absolutely see them doing probably Wing Saber to go with it. Seeing how well Fire Convoy came out really does make me think that that would be the best route if they wanted to do that. But then again, Armada Optimus as a Commander was a fantastic toy. So again, Commander would also work as well, but then you need to kind of figure out, well, are we doing the other two? Are we doing a Leo Breaker? Because I gotta tell you, Leo Breaker ain't all that exciting, but they could definitely do a better one today. So, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot to think about. I think it would work either way. Where it comes to when it comes to the Autobot and Decepticon Spaceborne Navy / forces, which do you prefer? The G1 Autobot smooth and somewhat domed, and Decepticon somewhat sweeping tetragon shape, or the Armada Unicron look of sleek and curvy Autobots versus blocky Decepticon ships? Who? I think G1 did have a nice thing, like the arc and the Autobot shuttle from the movie just being like much more rounded, much more like explorer vehicles, whereas the Decepticon stuff is very much like sharp and very much warlike. You see the same thing in Beast Wars, where the Axelon is very much an exploration ship. The Dark Side is very much an attack ship. So I would expect, I think when they have that opposing look, I think that works best. It's basically just me like, that looks like an ice ship. That looks like a really mean ship. How would you feel about Johnny Young Bosch voicing Star Saber, since he voiced Bumblebee in the Transformers War for Cybertron? I would want a little bit of a more mature voice than Johnny Young Bosch, because he still kind of sounds like a teenager. I want something with a little bit more authority. Something a little bit deeper. I don't know exactly who, because I'm not up on voice actors today, but yeah, I would. That's kind of where I am. I'm not sure he's the right fit for Star Saber. Let's see, after Strongarm and Filch as deluxes, do you think we can get more characters as larger size classes? I mean, we're getting Rescue Bot Voyager class toys soon. I think anything is possible now. Maybe not Commander Underbite. Maybe not him. Thunderhoof as a Voyager, I could absolutely see. I could even see Razor Claw. Or not Razor Claw, what am I talking about? Steeljaw. I could even see Steeljaw, because if he's a bigger SUV, I could see that happening at the Voyager. So I shift because I'm becoming uncomfortable now. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's where, I think it's absolutely possible. Absolutely. We are mounting an expedition to rescue thrown away steel molds from the Hong Kong Bay. Which one would you like to look for? Dinobots would be great, because a lot of those G1 Dinobots do not last very well. Swoop in particular is very fragile. I'd love to find those molds. I'd love to find I'd love to find Beast Wars. Which was it? I'd love to find Beast Wars. My brain. Metal's Ravage. I'd love to find that one. I'd like to find the mold for Trans-Tech Starscream, because that did have a hard prototype, so a mold existed at one time. It's the only one that made it to a mold. I would love to get that figure. What would be a good way for some relevance to special team guys who debuted in Combiner Wars? Rook, Alpha Bravo, and the others. I think someone else just asked this. I mean, my go-to answer for this would be to come up with a brand new Combiner for them. You know, kind of in a way that, like, Nova Prime, or not Nova Prime, Nexus Prime is actually, like, a mix of Autobots and Decepticons who just, like, came together via destiny. Like, kind of in the same direction of that, you know? Like, a team that will work well together and have, like, a very particular mission to them, despite the fact they were Autobot and Decepticon mixed. I don't get why political intrigue turns you off from Transformers when modern Transformers deal with politics behind the war. Because I don't like it. I'm not sure why you felt the need to comment on that. If I don't like political intrigue stories, I don't like political intrigue stories. Why did you feel the need to mention that? I don't see why that was hard to understand. See, can you picture the skeleton of HasLab Unicron to be used for a Death Star transformer? Well, for number one, they want to keep the HasLabs. They want to keep them kind of sacred. I want to keep them kind of sacred. I don't think they'd reuse any part. And really, for being honest here, the engineering on him is not great. You know, because the planet mostly folds up into his legs, and they're just big panels crunched together. I don't think that's nice. I think, honestly, the Transformer Star Wars Death Star they already did is already pretty decent. I would probably just try to improve that. Since you've liked turtles since you live in Florida, what's your favorite turtle tortoise you've seen down there? So there is a like a little mini zoo kind of place in nearby, where they had like one of those gigantic snapping turtles. You know, like one of those gigantic, a gigantic land tortoise that's lived for over like 100 years. Just like that was one of the cooler ones I've seen. I have seen full like alligator snapping turtles. They look absolutely brutal. They are vicious. You do not want your finger anywhere near them because they can and will bite it off. We've seen in Earthspark that the Autobots don't really mind working with Megatron. Do you think Season 2 will show us more Autobots who are hesitant or outright against working alongside the bot that started the war? Potentially, yeah. That's absolutely a direction they could go in, because they haven't really done much of that. Everyone's just kind of accepted that, yeah, Megatron surrendered. He's on our side now. Yeah. There's absolutely got to be dissenters out there who are just refusing to, like, rejoin the Autobots as long as Megatron's on that side. You know, you could even have a few like classic Autobots who are now aligned Decepticon over it. Yeah, you could do interesting stories with it. How far will Missing Link go? They won't do Megatron, but can they do licensed cars like Jazz's Porsche and his stickers? So here's the thing. The Porsche has always been about, will the company Porsche actually allow them to make that toy? Now, they are nice with Hasbro and Takara now because of the movie, so it is possible. We haven't seen it yet, though. They'll absolutely do licensed cars at some point because they're trying to remake a bunch of G1 characters. And honestly, they could do a Megatron, because Missing Link is not made for the American toy market. You know, Hasbro Pulse does sell it, but they are selling the imported version of it. So all they would have to do is basically skip Megatron. Simple as that. See, it's been well documented that the writers of Beast Wars disagree on the origins of the Vok. based on what they do in Beast Wars? Do you have a personal headcanon on their origin, or do you agree with any of the writer's interpretations? So, I don't like that, I don't like the interpretation that they are the evolved version of the Swarm, because the writer's perception of what the Swarm did on Earth is grossly incorrect. Ugh, sorry about that. I don't mean to jump cut on these, but like something just tickled my throat in just the wrong way. I had to cough that out. That I didn't want on video. So, yeah, so I don't agree with the Swarm. I don't agree with that. Like, personally, I like the idea that, like, after what Prime did in Rebirth, you know, that one surviving Quintesson that actually survived the Hate Plague, I would like to, I mean, I like the canon. There's a canon out there where that led to the Autobots and Quintessons actually coming to a peace treaty. I would like the idea that they are like an evolved version of the Quintessons. You know, for the similar ideas that come back to Earth to try and, you know, like, conduct their experiments there. That makes more sense, you know, for, like, the Quintessons than it does the Vok. Or the Swarm, rather. Yeah, I'd like to think they're just like Quints. They're, like, evolved away from those bodies, so they're just, like, floating faces now. Which also explain why they know Unicron. Do you have a favorite Batmobile design? I know the whole Unicron thing, pulled from Primal, you get what I mean. Do you have a favorite Batmobile design that you would prefer to make into a Transformer collaborative? Which do you think is mine? You mentioned it. It's the Michael Keaton one, or rather the Tim Burton one. Yeah, I really love that one. I love that one. I think it'd make the most interesting one, certainly. Yeah, and the more campy Adam West is also the other popular pick. Outside of that, there's not a lot of Batmobiles that really stand out to me. I don't like the Tumbler. I don't think Batman looks good in a tank. Would you like to see a Transformers DC Comics crossover? See the question above. If it means we get a transforming Batmobile, yes. Let's see. You think Commander Skylynx could be remolded into Onyx Primal or too much work? Way too much work. Way too much work. You only make that comment because it's a four-legged underside, but like I don't think a shuttle with a big carrier is really the alt mode you're gonna want for Onyx Prime. You're not gonna want like an Earth space shuttle for like an ancient Cybertronian. Yeah, at that point you might as well just mold it from the ground up and just make an interesting Centaur transformer. So off the top of your head, can you name up to 3 intrusive gimmicks from Transformers that were guilty pleasures of yours? Yeah, IG Energon Wing Saber. Yeah, that is one. That is one. In order to actually get that combination to work, yeah, that's a very hindered figure. I'm trying to think of like specific examples of like, I still like this gimmick, even though it's really, really busting this toy. One of them might be Armada Blur. Like the idea that you insert the entire Minicon into the back of his vehicle to create the flying version of his vehicle mode, I do think that is cool. It also absolutely wrecked his robot mode from being any good. I'm trying to think of other ones. I think I can't really come up with 3, but that's the strongest. That's the strongest one in my head right now. Would you be excited to do the concept series figure for the biplane from Revenge of the Fallen line? If they could figure out how to make it really good. So, like, they did do that character as, like, a Scout class figure, and it was okay. But if you're going to make it, like, larger, Deluxe or Voyager, I'd really want it to be shored up by comparison. It'd be fun, though. It'd be fun. Like, biplanes have literally only happened once. I'd like to try again. What's a feature on modern generations figures you've gotten so accustomed to that going back to older figures without said features feels off? For me, it's multiple weapon ports for Siege Onward, I've taken granted. It's ankle tilt. So getting to play with an older figure these days and just going to their ankle and going, oh, I can't stabilize this thing. Oh my god. Oh my god. I'm so used to the ankle tilts. I'm scared to death if they ever leave us. Especially on figures. There's so many figures from back then that have really bad stability issues because the way they're engineered, there's nothing on the inside edge of their leg. So they just have like because their ankles don't tilt, they have next to no like flat base to stand on. If their legs are apart to any degree. Ankle tilts help that so much. Ankle tilts make a lot of figures possible. I read somewhere that Cybertron Snarl was originally made to combine with Cybertron Optimus Prime like Leo Breaker and Savage Claw mode. Is that true? That is literally the first time I have ever heard that. Considering that it took a Voyager class toy to, yeah, I guess Voyager at the time. It took a Voyager class toy in order to form Prime's arm. I don't necessarily think a deluxe is going to do the same. No, I have never heard of that rumor. If Hasbro fixed if Hasbro fixed the solution of chipping vac metal paint, would you like to see reissues of old toys from Transmetal 1 or 2, or just make new toys for existing Transmetal characters for future generation lines? I mean, honestly, I'd kind of like to see both, if we're being completely real here. But if I have a preference, it's definitely toward making brand new versions of them. Especially in the cases of like Rat Trap, where you need his kibble to rotate 180 degrees. Or even like Cheetor, so he can have like a face more like he actually had in the show, instead of that like, he has this really mean grimace in his Transmetal form that really doesn't make sense on the toy. So yeah, definitely new ones. If, you know, especially if they could make the vac metal paint not chip and scratch so easily. I still think metallic paint would work fine. I do know that eBay will not allow buyers to purchase Masterpiece Megatron for delivery to the United States, as they have a few bids canceled over the years, which is interesting because I have bought Masterpiece Megatron in the States and everything was fine. So I guess import directly from Japan and hope customs doesn't mess you up. After the best of insert year here videos are done, would you be interested in doing a ranking video that is just ranking your number one picks from each? I think that would be unfair. I think that would actually be really unfair, because at some point that means I'm comparing G1 Optimus Prime to Cybertron Optimus Prime, and, you know, even trying to keep it into some... There's no way to keep that into an objective perspective. You know, I can't compare what a really good toy from 1984 should be versus what a really good toy from 2004 should be. You know, that just gets unfair at that point. You know? So, unfortunately, I don't think that would actually work. I kind of thought about doing the other thing of, like, let's rank the years, you know, what years were the best. And then just realize, like, we're in some of the best years Transformers ever had. Like, I think just, like, the farther down the timeline you get, the higher up on the list it would go. So, I don't think it would really work, unfortunately. It's not a bad idea, just the execution wouldn't be there. Do you think they should go back to doing the current show at full Deluxe Voyager and Leader, but with gimmicks installed in them? No! Absolutely not, because the reason we enjoy high levels of articulation and really clever toy engineering for transformation now is because they're not doing anything with gimmicks built in. Removing the gimmicks from the toy exponentially helps not only the budget of the figure itself, but also what the toy can do. If we start doing like a full line of figures where like you've got like gimmicks installed in them like that, at this point, I think they would do nothing but suffer. Should Titans Return 6-shot be reissued, or should a new Commander Leader 6-shot be made? I really think you just retool that figure to remove the Headmaster element and just shore it up a little bit, because that is a very, very good 6-shot. It's a very, very good figure. Where is mine? Should be able to see that. Okay, I see it. I see him. Yeah, he can absolutely just be retooled. The original one could just be retooled. I think that would work great. With the release of Corvicon Filch. Anyway, what are the chances of a new female Autobot Firestar toy being released? That's really hard. I would love for all of those Autobots all of the female Autobots to actually get another run, because I think it's an enormous injustice for all of them to be represented by the exact same mold in Power of the Primes. That's disrespectful to those characters. You know, I want a Firestar that turns into a pickup truck. You know, remold her from a cup toy for all I care. You know, like, they deserve better than that. I recently got into Beastbox toys, but just like with Transformers, I can't afford everything. What are some you would recommend? I have the Owl, Mantis, and Hippo so far. Well, you've already got the Mantis, which was the first one I was gonna think of. I just got the Rhino Beetle in. That's also really, really nice. That's a really fun one. What else have I gotten that was really good? It's hard for me to remember even which ones I have at the moment. One of the ones I really like is the Parrot. Like Echo Blaster, I think the name is, but there's a few versions of it now. That's absolutely one of my favorites. A lot of the Beast boxes I have are kind of packed away at the moment because I don't have shelf space for them. But, yeah, the Parrot I keep out. I really like the Parrot. Do you think Centurions would work well as Glyos toys? Don't worry if you don't know what toy line I'm talking about. Yes, Man and Machine, Power Extreme. I know Centurions. The Glyos engineering would absolutely work for them. Not gonna deny that. The trick with Glyos is that it's not really like a figure with extra parts attached on. The figure is the parts. So for Glyos, that would be exceptionally expensive, because a lot of modern Glyos toys, even at like little 3-inch figures, are over $20 each now. They're getting pretty expensive to produce. So to also make one that has a bunch of additional parts to attach on, that's going to get real expensive. So I think the engineering makes sense. Financially, I don't think it makes sense. Let's see. How many waves could a tidal wave wave? A tidal wave could wave waves. Not 23. The answer is actually 6. Because the waves would be formed by the wake of the vehicle going through the water, and if it's split into all 3 forms, that gives you 6 wakes. So the answer is 6. Would Alistair enjoy podcasts because they're a form of audio entertainment, or dislike them because they're modern? See, you ask the questions that everyone else is too scared to. I think for Alistair, it's a lot about the presentation. I mean, I think he just prefers the radio broadcast. I don't think he would necessarily be into, I don't think he would be into the podcast aspect of it. Though I'm sure there's probably like a season 2 episode that might actually explore that, because it is an obvious little thing for him. Let's see, is there any Transformer figure that got an update that you believe was worse than the original toy? See, the one that jumped to mind immediately was Cybertron Optimus Prime, but that's not technically Cybertron Prime. That's Galaxy Upgrade Optimus Prime, and that one really doesn't count. That one really doesn't count because it's a G1 Prime cosplaying as Cybertron. So I'm trying to figure now, because it would have to be a figure that was like a brand new figure was made in the modern era, and then had a toy update since then that wasn't as good. That's actually tricky. That's actually really tricky. Now that I try to think about it. Yeah, I don't think I have an answer for that one, unfortunately. Yeah, there's just been a lot of like really improved toys over the years. It's very hard to come up with one right now that was worse than its previous incarnation. Huh. I might get back to that. I might do a whole video on that. Why don't you like Thundertron? Okay, I recognize that Flame War. I'm not even going to warrant this an answer. I think you just want to poke at my preferences. Don't do that. That's really rude. I'm just going to tell you flat out. That's really rude. It's like, why don't you like this? Because I don't like it, and it's none of your business. You know, if you're just going to ask me, like, okay, well, why don't you like that? Okay, fine, but, like, he did it twice. That's a pattern. That gets you removed. Let's move on to someone who actually knows how to ask a nice question. What would you think if they were to make a new mold for Splendid Convoy? So this is the yellow RID Optimus. It could be an average size leader class, have it go from fire truck to super mode, no base robot. I do like that idea of kind of doing it the way that Titanium did it. If they did do it as a brand new mold, I would actually maybe try to avoid doing things that made it look too much like Fire Convoy. I would actually prefer her to actually try to do a few things differently so she stands out as her own bot. Maybe slightly different, different head shape, maybe a different chest or like shoulder designs. I want her to stand out, still be familiar as like a interpretation of RID Optimus, but still doing her own thing. If you're a Transformer and had a weapon alt mode, what weapon alt mode would you want to be as? The smart aleck in my brain said a staff or a spear. How would you even work? How would it even work? I kind of want that to be it. If I'm being real, probably a shield. It's not technically a weapon, but I like shields. I think they're a little bit more versatile than people give them credit for sometimes. Do you think they would ever do more IDW characters like Tarn and Legacy or future toy lines? Absolutely. Like, they know how popular the Nautica figure was that they released, and they know it's not a good Nautica figure. So I would absolutely expect a few more IDW to pop up. There's some that are just, like, too iconic. Like, they're gonna do some, like, now that we have a new Gears, they're going to do, they're gonna do some, inevitably they're gonna retool into, like, a new G1 Swerve. It's not gonna be as good. Let's see, what do we have here? What's next here? Do you think the rescue bots have a place in modern Transformers media that does not revolve around them? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, getting them into a current cartoon would be a little bit difficult, but if you want to insert them into the comic books as an alternative to your Prowls and your Infernos, absolutely. If there was a Gundam X Transformers crossover, which Gundam and mobile suit other than G1 Optimus and the original RX-78-2 do you think would work well together in terms of design and have a big overlap in fandoms? I don't know Gundam. I don't know how. I think this is another thing. Can we please stop asking Gundam questions? I really, like, outside of a few exceptions, I don't know Gundam, and on the whole, I don't like Gundam. Okay? So unfortunately, I'm putting, like, a hard limit on, like, Gundam questions. I just don't have answers for you. I'm sorry. If you want to ask me about G Gundam, go ahead, but, like, I don't know Seed. I don't know Build Fighters. I don't know Witch from Mercury. I don't know. See, do you think we could get a reissue of the Transformers Animated or Transformers Prime toy line in the future? We technically did. So, like, the Hades Megatron did come out for the 10th, for the anniversary of Prime, along with the first US release of Breakdown. So, it is absolutely possible if they can dig the molds up. I don't necessarily know if that's going to happen at this point. You know, they had a chance to do it for Animated's anniversary. They didn't. We'll see. Least favorite Scott McNeil character. Jeez. Okay, you're asking me to choose between hundreds of characters. And I just thought of a really funny answer that would get me in so much trouble. I'm not even going to approach that thought again. Trying to think if there's just any character of Scott McNeil that just like flat out went, I don't like him. I mean, what besides Beast Machine, Silverbolt? I mean, if I, like, just going out on a limb here, because I'm sure if I went through, like, my anime and comic and old cartoons, I would come up with something a little bit better. For the sake of getting through the question, I'm going to go ahead and say Backstop, because I really don't feel like I don't feel like Scott had the right voice for the old wise character, you know? I thought that was a miscast. Yeah, and I don't think it was just portrayed very well in the translation. See, if you could choose one Cybertron figure / character to get the Supreme class upgraded Cybertron Starscream did, which figure would you choose? So, the reality here is that Cybertron Starscream only got a Supreme class upgrade because they needed a Supreme class for the US market. That's literally the only reason why. If I just want one particular figure to be big and, you know, just like have a big toy to play, Landmine's actually a good option because Landmine actually did grow to Starscream size to fight him. So that one wouldn't be a bad choice. Quick Mix again. Okay, yeah, because Metroplex might need some. That's not a bad answer. Let's see. What do you think of the first Contact Federation ships? Akira, Steamrunner, Norway, Saber. Don't know any of them. Sorry. Given all the recent reissues, how likely is it that Hasbro reissue Series 69 Devastator? I didn't know they were producing Transformers in 1969. I'm a little bit concerned. Is that something your autocorrect did? Is that something your autocorrect did? Because that's telling. I don't. Okay, here's the thing. This question was asked a day ago, so you might have missed the news. We have the leaks for 2025. We know there are new Constructicons on the way. They're being sold individually in Studio Series as 86 figures. So they're absolutely not re-releasing Studio Series 86 Devastator. Or actually, hang on a second. Hang on a second. Am I misremembering something? Hang on. Oh, okay. Okay, wrong Devastator. Wrong Devastator. 69 is Revenge of the Fallen Devastator. Okay. Amend my concerns. Sorry. Honestly, I don't think that's likely. Because they did that multi-pack to reissue those toys in the first place. I don't think they're going to do it again. I think at this point it's skipped at this point. Let's see. Yeah, I think the ship has sailed on that one. I don't think they're going to do it again. I think they've given people plenty of opportunities to buy those figures. How would you feel if Adam Wingard, the guy who did Godzilla X Kong, The New Empire, doing a Beast Wars film non-canon to the other films? So he so he does get giant fight scenes. Okay, understand that. He gets animal fight scenes. Beast Wars, I'm not concerned with those things. I'm concerned with the quality of writing. So really the director, like he seems like a fine director. I mean, I can't think of anything that like really upset me about the direction of that movie. For me, Beast Wars movie is more about quality of writing and character delivery than it is just like how well directed it is. So I think he'd be okay. I think he'd be okay. What was your character favorite repaint you ever bought, and what was the worst character repaint you have seen? Oh my god. If we're talking about a repaint that just turns into a new character, Energon Offshoot's a really ugly color scheme to do to signal flare. That's pretty hideous. There are some really hideous repaints out there. We've talked about a few of them. Most of the ones I hate the most are just when it's like, oh, it's the same character, but we moved Bumblebee's stripe over to the left by an inch. You know, those barely repainted ones. Character favorite repaint. At that point, we're talking like Cybertron Excellion or Cannonball. You know, back when they were doing really characterful repaints of figures. See, very recently got to see a concert and hang out with Caleb Hiles. I was wondering if you would ever want to do something besides the interviews with him, such as guest starring in a cover or something like that. I mean, at the most, if we're going to do collab on anything, it'd probably just be on one of his gaming streams. Those seem to be few and far between these days. You would not want me to do anything with him in a cover. I have the singing range of a 3-speed blender. You do not want me singing. Promise you that. Do you think Transformer figures made from majority recycled plastic in a similar vein to all those all-black Gunpla model kits made from reclaimed materials would sell well? I don't necessarily know, because I'm not necessarily sure Transformer fans are all that concerned about how environmentally friendly things are. You can see that by the reaction people had to like the eco-friendly packaging with no windows. And I'm among them. I want windows back. And we are getting it because too many retailers were reporting broken things. See, out of all the Hasbro Takara releases, which Autobot or Decepticon do you think has gotten the worst representation as an action figure or toy? Not asking what you think is the worst Transformer toy, just asking which Transformer you feel always gets the short end of the stick when Hasbro Takara decides to release them in a Transformer lineup. Oh boy, if it wasn't so late at night, I would absolutely have an answer for this. Because in my head, I know there is one. I absolutely know that there is one where it's like, this guy can never get a good toy. And I'm trying really hard to think about it right now, and just like nothing is coming up. I almost want to say Megatron himself. Because he gets a ton of toys, but none of them really seem to be like fully baked, you know, like Combiner War Megatron, the leader class. This is an ugly toy. It's just an ugly take on Megatron. And then you have, like, the Siege one is fine, but you've got a bunch of kibble on him, and then the kibble gets even worse when you when you get to, like, the Earthrise version of the mold. So that gets frustrating. Like, it just seems like they should be able to make a really clean Voyager-class Megatron by now, and they just really haven't. So that's one that comes to mind. That's one that comes to mind. I'm actually kind of surprised that that's the answer. See, do you think Takara should release Overlord as an MPG figure? If so, should he be sold in 2 parts? No. No. You absolutely do not want to sell that character in 2 pieces just because he comes apart, because the individual pieces wouldn't be fully working toys. No, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. It'd be like releasing Duocons as separate figures, but without any kind of, anything to actually, like, any kind of, God, my brain's blanking. with no kind of individual vehicle mode of their own. You know, like it would be like trying to sell, like it would be trying like imagine like the flywheels they did for Siege. It'd be like selling the jet as a core class figure, and that's it. It just turns into a torso. It wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. Since they decided to make Thundertron a new figure, do you think it's possible for them to make new toys based off of toy line characters? Because we need that TFP Ironhide. I mean, that does open up possibilities. It's just really hard without like cartoon or comic representation. It's really hard to determine exactly how popular toys like that would be. So I don't think Hasbro ever really wants to take the risk on something like that. So it's rough. It's rough that way. But I think that it's on the table. I think it's on the table because there are some really cool toys that never made it into shows or comics. Have you ever thought about making more videos where you recharacterize other TF characters who don't have any or that strong a characterization to begin with and make them more unique? Absolutely. Like, we did that with Dinobots. I'm sure there's room to do that with others, either in just, like, individual, like, what-if videos. I feel like we kind of do that with the, underused character videos a lot. So, yeah, like, there's definitely room to do that if I can think of ones that I really want to explore like that. What's your favorite classic arcade game? I am an absolute sucker for the original Ninja Turtles arcade. To the point where, when they did the arcade 1-up version of it, I was offended because the theme song was re-recorded. You pay all that money for the license and for Konami to give up the original code to you, and you don't want to pony up the money to license the theme song. That's shameful. If you could have any toy-only Beast Wars figure made in Masterpiece, who do you have? I'm trying to think of, like, which one is my absolute favorite that wasn't actually in the show. If there's any to do, I'd probably be in for, like, Transmetal Waspinator. Because I love how that design comes together. So it's probably like the most legit vehicle mode that any of the Transmetals have. I just think it's a good look. It's a really good look. And then you get the yellow version. It's an even better look. Okay, it seems that Hasbro is planning a Skywarp from the United Cybertron Starscream. Given the representation victory, yeah, I know. Trust me, I'm excited. Given the representation victory has gotten recently, how would you think that Hasbro will release a modern Multiforce with all the original features intact and either core or deluxe? You could not get those gimmicks to work at core class. You absolutely couldn't. Because here's the thing, if you've never experienced the original Multiforce toys, they're way bigger and bulkier than core class. You wouldn't be able to get them in that size. They would have to be deluxes at least. And if they were deluxes, I think Hasbro would backwards compatible them into being pre-tools for Energon characters. In fact, like, my solution to getting Power Links characters back into rotation is to do the Titans Return thing and just make it the theme for an entire year. And that way you get the Multiforce mixed in as well. Let's see, let's say Nucleon Quest Convoy is a Charred Prime. Would that make Fire Guts Jinrai an Orange Chicken Prime? Get something to eat and then ask a question. That's a weird one. That's a really weird one. I'm going to tell you right now, it's past 5 in the morning when I'm recording this. This is not the thought I need in my head right now. You could view it that way, though. If Pretenders had taken off gimmick and all, the whole 9 yards, you'd think we would have seen the Matroska dolls of Transformers by now. So, we kind of already did. That's what an Ultra Pretender is. It is a robot in a shell. To go full Russian nesting doll, you'd need at least like one more layer of shell. I don't know what that layer would be, but it was actually pretty close. But I think they would try to expand it in different ways rather than just adding constantly adding layers of shell to it. See, didn't Pterosaur and Beast Wars have shoulder cannons he used in an episode. Yes, he had them in Power Surge. It's the weaponry he used to blow up Megatron into little bits. I believe it's the only time he used them, too. Keeping any toy, but especially Transformers, in box, yay or nay? I always tell people, you never know if a toy is going to become valuable or not. It's complete random crapshoot. Just take it out and play with it. Just enjoy it. If you're going to buy something just for the sake of it increasing in monetary value, buy sealed boxes of Pokemon cards, like booster boxes. And even then, I still say that's kind of a risk with how overproduced they are these days. Play the stock market. You know, if you're just going to buy something for the sake of investment, do actual investing. Don't buy toys and hope for the best. With a Micromaster Slowpoke, use a Cantonian Slowpoke or a Galarian Slowpoke. You gotta use the Cantonian. You gotta use the original, right? You know, I don't think Slowpoke is all that toxic. Let's say that. How would you feel about an attempt at Season 4 of Animated that incorporated things like Blur getting a new body? I mean, yes. If you could absolutely do more Season 4, if you could do it more animated, do it. Like, that's a no-brainer. Oh jeez. Okay, so question for this month: what is your opinion on these deformation transform figures that is appearing on Amazon? I've like a lot of legit people saying reviews they're better than the Hasbro official releases. So, yeah. This is again something you don't do. This is a really long thing, and don't leave me something that I have to click on to go read. I have seen the knockoffs. I have experienced knockoffs like that in person. I don't think they're as good as Hasbro's. The ones I've experienced, they are not. And frankly, it's hit and miss. It's completely random. I would not take the chance on spending money on something that may or may not be good. You know? With MPM Brawl being announced, how likely do you think there'll be a Desert Ruins repaint like the Revenge of the Fallen line? I do love the Deep Desert Brawl color scheme. They ain't doing it for Masterpiece. Masterpiece has shown that they really don't have like any kind of notion for doing any weird repaints or doing anything that's like based on repainted toy characters. They ain't doing it for movie Masterpiece at all. Don't get your hopes up. We know Rhino and Rail Racer isn't that popular here statewide as they are in Japan, so do you think if Hasbro pulled a Takara and redesigned the train box to look like American locomotives with paint decals being railroads, Pennsylvania, you're basically asking, in a long-winded way, you're asking if they redid them into American trains if they would sell better. No! Absolutely not. There is a plethora of examples of how train toys don't sell to kids in America. They just don't. Unless they're Thomas the Tank Engine, they just don't. Redoing them into American trains isn't gonna help. They're just not. Since Sideburn is on his way, how long do you think it'll take before we get the other Autobot brothers? I wouldn't be surprised to get Prowl relatively soon, like maybe like a year from now. I would expect to see the Prowl, because I think there are some potential retools they could get out of it, like like we mentioned him before, Armada Blur. I might have called in my exhaustion. I might have called him Silverbolt earlier, which is technically still correct. It's the Japanese name. Either way, yeah, I think Prowl is more likely. I have no idea how they're going to do X-Brawn, because there's really nothing you could do with that mold except repaint it into his super form, which, you know, might be enough for them. I know about the TMNT crossover figure, but if the Ninja Turtles were to become Headmaster heads, which Autobots would Turtles be bionically bonded to? You're doing this thing again. I gotta think of the entire run of Transformers just to think of who matches the Ninja Turtles the best. Who is the slacker Autobot to go with Michelangelo? I don't know. There's so many hotheads. How do I choose for Raphael? I'm sorry, I am gonna skip this one just because it is definitely one of those where I'm gonna have to sit and think a long time to come up with appropriate matches. Please try to avoid things where I'm going to have to sit through and think about thousands of characters all at the same time just to answer. Please try to avoid that. Do you think Transformers will make the other Dinobots in Legacy / Prime? That's actually hard to tell. Not in Legacy, because Studio Series pretty much has the Dinobots nailed. I don't really see any reason for them to revisit the Dinobots in Prime, unless they're going for, like, different universe ones. If they want to give me a full set of, like Cyberverse Dinobots, for instance, that are a little bit better detailed, a little bit more colorful, has a really cool swoop, that I would be down for. That I would be good for. It might be a lofty choice, though. It might be a lofty goal. Do you think they will ever make a Titans animated Omega Supreme? And if they do you think it's going to be a new mold or a mold of one of the existing Titans? People think that the art could be retooled into Omega Supreme, and honestly, I don't see it. The shapes and the patterns of how things work just aren't there for me. They really need to find out if animated is viable before they do a $200 animated toy. And to date, they've only done 2 modern animated figures. Both have gone over fairly well, but I don't think it's going to be necessarily enough for them to go, now we need to do a $200 toy. I think they work up to that. You know, let's see if like an Ultra Magnus at a $55 liter could pass. Then we'll figure out if we can actually do Omega Supreme. Would you rather a Transformers Owl House crossover or a Kamen Rider Owl House crossover? I don't think Transformers has much business in Owl House between magic and a lack of vehicles. Kamen Rider would fit way better for Owl House. Especially magic themed ones. You know, get Kamen Rider Wizard in there. Let's see. How would you market Generation style Transformers to kids in order to get them into the toys like our Generations? Make a cartoon. Just make a really good cartoon of the current collector's line. It's not that hard, you know. Just something that gets kids invested in them. Can you see Shard being retooled into Arachnid, or you think she should get her own unique mold? I think no. I don't. I think Shard's a poor fit for Arachnid. Some of the shapes and elements just don't line up. She needs her own brand new toy. Question, favorite Optimus Prime feat? Whichever ones are currently holding up the Optimus Prime I'm messing with at the time. Since they're going to be the big 3 soon, do you prefer the Primes to be all good except for Megatronus, more varied, a Liege Maximo? Also, your Sparks videos still aren't in a playlist. Thank you for the reminder. Thank you for that. I'm very tired. I will probably forget in the morning, but thank you for the reminder. I do prefer them being kind of a mix. Not like, I don't want any of them to be like inherently evil except for Megatronus. Even then, he's tragic in his villainy. I do like when it's more of an interesting mix of characters rather than just like, oh, they're all just good guys, except for this one we kicked out. Have you gotten any of the Gotchard toys, and how do you feel about the ones you bought? The only thing I've really bought from Gotchard is the main driver. I haven't bought any of the upgrades for it. It's fun enough. It's a nice toy. I need to get more of the cards. I haven't gotten anything from Phase 3. And I like I like how many different combinations are in it. What's your reaction if Unicron becomes a good guy? Basically asking what is Hasbro thinking, because that should be impossible. Yeah, I don't like that idea. I don't like that idea any more than what Galactus becomes a good guy. Because why would you make a destroyer of the universe a good guy? You know, like, I mean, the guy's eaten 100 planets and now he's a good guy. I forgive him for that. You missed your daily upload yesterday. No, I did not. YouTube had my video hard locked, unfortunately, in processing. It did make it out on the 31st, but not on the East Coast. So, yeah. Don't be disparaging. That's, again, really rude. That's like... that's just not cool to do. How do you keep your hair in a ponytail or keep it down? I actually don't like it in a ponytail. Just because it's just like, I don't like the tight feeling in my hair. I kind of like letting it just kind of flow and do whatever it wants to do. How would you feel if Hasbro somehow was able to use the Alfa Romero Carabo for a character's alt mode? So, I did see this one in an email notification, so I did look up what that vehicle was. It's basically a big wedge as a car. It's actually super sleek looking. It's actually pretty cool. It would absolutely be possible. Like, they've done a skateboard transformer. They could absolutely do that car as a transformer. It'd be cool. It'd be cool. I like when weird cars like that get to transform. What is your favorite morpher? I mean, I hate to be cliche, but it is the original Power Morpher. I just think I like the coins, I like the function, and like the handheld feel. I don't like wrist-mounted morphers. And a lot of wrist-mounted these days. I don't like wrist-mounted. Is it just me, or does Legacy United Shard kind of look like it would work for Cybertron evac? I don't see that. I don't see that. With evac, the character is very much in that silhouette that relies on the helicopter tail going out the sides on the shoulders, which Shard cannot do. Shard also cannot, has the cockpit in the chest. Yeah, that's not a thing that evac does. Yeah, I think that's personally, I think that's a total mismatch. I don't think that works. What's the ending music for the tease? I really like it. Someone else asked me this on Twitter. It's in the description. I credit the music in the description. It's sung by DJ Baker called Shooting Star. So yeah, go check it out. It's a very nice song. It seems like really great, successful fiction requires an author with a sufficiently more sophisticated intellect than the target audience. If true, it becomes increasingly unlikely that any Transformers media will ever please adult fans. True or false? False. I know plenty of adult fans who have enjoyed a lot of Transformers media that was aimed at kids. I am an adult who really likes Earthspark. I have a lot of adult friends who really, really like Earthspark. I don't think you need significant sophistication in order to appeal to adults. I think you just need it to be well written. The idea that it has to be complex or nuanced or sophisticated for adults to be interested in it is, I'm sorry, BS. That's just not true. It's just not. See, if Tryon is the Alpha and TJ is the Omega, who are the rest? It is funny. It is funny. There is a Zeta. There is a Zeta Prime, so we know that one at least. There's Beta. Beta is a Transformer from G1, so she counts as well. The rest of them, you're on your own. That falls into the category of you're making me come up with the whole cast, but it's a funny gag. See, has a repro label kit or upgrade kit completely changed your mind on a figure? I'm really not the type to go for upgrades. I'm one of those that tries to be happy with what I've got instead of spending a lot of money on what it was supposed to be like. I've never actually bought an upgrade figure outside of City Commander because, yeah, the Class 6 Ultra Magnus absolutely needed to have a trailer that becomes armor. That one absolutely did. So, it goes a long way back. I gotta go a long way back for that answer, but there it is. Repro label I've never actually done for an existing figure, though I'm probably gonna do it for the new. Starscream, just so I can have it as good as it can be. Do you think Ratchet goes to Advanced Auto Parts to get things to fix the Autobots, do you think he's their best customer? I don't think stuff from Earth could actually repair a Transformer between potentially weaker materials and the fact that Cybertronian engineering is not exactly the same as ours. You know, I don't think a Transformer has to worry about having their shocks adjusted or anything, or their wheels rotated. No, I think he does it from. I think he does it from scratch. Or like Wheeljack builds the stuff and Ratchet puts it back in. So since Ninja Turtles needs to cross over with everything, which series do you think they'll do next between Thundercats and G.I. Joe? I think Thundercats is the better one, the anthropomorphic animal thing. I don't think mutant ninjas living in New York and specialized military are really going to mix well. I think Thundercats is a more fun choice. Do you think they'll ever make a Diatlas figure again, as made like a HasLab, or you think it's too obscure? That's a really hard one. I mean, they did one in Japan's Legends series. It's kind of a poor effort at it, though. It was a retool of Overlord. I mean, it's a Japanese leader. I'm sure they'll do something for Diatlas again at some point. I don't think it's going to be HasLab, because I do think that is just too deep of a cut. You have to race a car former in your car. Who do you think you could win against? Hang on. Need of water again. Sorry about that. I'm trying to think, because my car is a Mini Cooper. It can't exactly get that fast. Slowpoke. I can beat Slowpoke in a race. You have, Unfortunately, I drive a car that can't get above freeway speeds. So that's gonna have to be a losing effort on my part. Is Dr. Pepper a real doctor, or is it some sort of Dr. Mario scenario? He was a real doctor, unfortunately lost his license, and is now practicing under the table, which means he's committing malpractice. I don't know why he hasn't been caught yet. I think people are more concerned about what exactly his beverage tastes like. Maybe a good idea to give yourself a hard out on time rather than trying to answer every question. You asked a question, you deserve to have an answer. Period. I don't care how long it takes me to get through. If anything, I would probably just start if this video is already going to be longer than the last one. I think it already is longer than the last one. And I still have quite a few to go. At most, I might start splitting these in half or even into thirds, just so it's a little bit more palatable. If it gets any farther. See, who else do we have here? How do you create an unsympathetic / irredeemable villain that's fleshed out and three-dimensional? Play Final Fantasy VI. You'll get one. Because there's a lot of nuance to Kefka that makes him even more demented than just the fact that, you know, he is incredibly cruel and sadistic. It's absolutely doable. It's absolutely doable. What's your favorite episode out of any Transformers show? Again, a stock answer. Code of Hero is way up there. If we're going to other franchises, Fire in the Sky. I always liked that episode a lot. What else? What other ones? I'm trying to think of ones outside the box here a little bit. There was, oh God, I can't remember the name of the episode, but Transformers Prime has an episode where it's Starscream and Knockout, and it's very much horror movie themed, and I thought that one was a really fun episode for a Transformers to get to do. See, have you ever heard or played the online game MechQuest before? Unfortunately, no, so I'm not going to be able to give you my thoughts on that one. Because you show some interest in Godzilla, I want to know, what is your least favorite Godzilla kaiju? Man, I feel like I'm giving some stock answers. It might just because I'm late, because it's so late, and I just want to finish this up. Hedorah, the smog monster. I think that's I honestly think it's a lazy design. It doesn't strike me as like a full-on kaiju. It's just a blob guy. Meh. Since Titan-class tidal wave is now official, is it possible that he gets remolded or retooled into robot Michael Jackson from his movie Moonwalker? I don't think he turned into that kind of aircraft carrier. He turned into a spaceship of some kind. I think, like, you could probably retool him out of, like, G-Axis. Like, I don't think you need to go full Titan for Michael. Do you think Hasbro would retool Studio Series A6 Snarl into RID 2015 Scowl, since they're both Stegosaurus, and he's not known enough, or is he not known enough for a leader class? I definitely think that plays a part into it. Just the fact that, you know, it's a rather obscure character, to the point where I have to look it up really quickly in order to remind myself exactly how he looked. Yeah, looking at him now, that would be an extreme retool in order to make that work. I don't think you do that. I think you just make a brand new character and just make it a much more palatable size and price point. Let's see, who's your least favorite character from animated, if there is one? Okay, so who in animated? Who do I say is my least favorite character in animated without getting lacerated in the comments? Honestly, weirdly enough, probably Headmaster. Because it's basically Control Freak from Teen Titans all over again. And Control Freak got on my nerves. And, you know, Headmaster kind of gets the same way. Maybe it's just the voice actor. Maybe it's because it's the same voice actor. Why do you think there's no Power Rangers Transformers crossover? Hasbro stated in the past they think it's too similar because transforming and combining robots and animals and such. I think that's a lame excuse. Absolutely. No, I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know why. Like, maybe it is because they're too similar. Maybe because they don't think the brands really are, you know, they don't think it's necessary for them to do that. Hard to tell. Would you buy an Alpha Trion that turns into a Pope Mobile? Like, the Pope Mobile's a little bit silly looking. Probably not. I prefer Alpha Trion as some kind. You think Alpha Trion's just an old guy. Like, trying to equate him into the Pope Mobile is just kind of an error. It's there's a fallacy there. I think he works better as just kind of like some ancient spaceship. What if Paramount makes a movie based on Beast Machines and Nicolas Cage is cast as one of the Maximals? Join me as I storm the set and set it on fire. I will do it for all of you to save you from that fate. Do you think Shockwave would like the rapper Logic? No, he likes everything logical, but Logic is actually too nice of a guy. Like, I've seen some of the things he's done for, like, suicide support. Yeah, no. I don't think Shockwave would like that. Let's see. How do I overcome this feeling that I've committed some great and terrible sin because I resold some particularly valuable toys in X way like an absolute fool instead of Y way like a good collector? It's your toys. It's your business. Don't let anyone else tell you how you should have done it. If someone thinks you did it the wrong way, that's their hang up, not yours. If you are satisfied with the way that you parted with the figure, there's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, you need to stop beating yourself up. Okay. So here's the thing. Let's see. I sold a bunch of collector-owned Lego to some guy on Facebook who bought them for his kids to play with because toys are ultimately meant for kids. Look, if you send them to a collector, they would have sat there on a shelf doing absolutely nothing and they would have been resold again someday when they're more valuable. They would have viewed it the same way as they would their stock portfolio, which I think is more disrespectful to the toy than anything. You know? It shouldn't be treated like like a monetary investment. If it's going to a bunch of kids, great. You know, they're going to be enjoyed like they were meant to be. Kids are going to be happy because of what you did, which I think is a lot better than making, you know, some random, which I think is better than like some potentially like, you know, just like snobby collector getting a hold of them. Who's gonna see it more, you know, as a retirement fund than something to enjoy. Yeah, just don't let it bother you. Don't let it bother you. If you're, you know, if you're okay with how it parted, just be fine. Would you like a bowl of cereal, but with the milk, then the bowl, then the cereal, all made by Hot Shot, alongside some orange juice squeezed purely from Armada Sizewipe's hamsters that are in his hands? Why did I read hamsters instead of hammers? Oh my god, I need to go to bed. Also, you said type 1 if I need help, so in response, TWO. Papaya. Yeah, I'm done with those. The gag is funny once or twice, but I think you've done this like 4 or 5 Q&As in a row. It's a funny gag at first, but you're overplaying it now. Someone else asking how I keep my hair. Or are you asking the same question, you just accidentally posted it twice? Again, I keep it down. I don't like the ponytail. What are your thoughts on Playmates getting the toy license from Hasbro for Power Rangers, I presume? Do you think it's good or bad, or would you buy any of the toys? They did more Power Ranger, Ninja Turtles, etc. This is a whole video. My answer for this would be an entire video, because I think that in the short term, it could potentially, in the terms of like getting toys out of the franchise, it could be good. In terms of what's best for the franchise, I think it's a horrible, horrible mistake. So there's a whole video in my head about that. Maybe we'll see it this week. We'll keep an eye out. You'll find out. If Lego did Devastator, I assume, do you think they just do the big guy or all 6 and the parts to make the big guy? I would just want the big guy. It would definitely separate into individual figures. I don't necessarily think it would. I don't necessarily think it would be like fully fledged figures, like fully articulated, like they've done for Prime in the individual bot modes. I think that would be reserved for the combined mode. But really, it's Lego. They're going to reassemble those bricks into something that looks like those individual Constructicons because they're that good at engineering. Also, I think, why are you making a Devastator if it's just the big guy? What's the point? What are your thoughts on an official Thomas the Tank crossover? I mean, it would definitely sell a train transformer. That would be rare. I mean, it's on paper, it's not a bad idea, but you are doing like a little kids franchise as a crossover thing that's usually aimed for older collectors. So financially, probably not viable, but I'm sure there's kids who would get a kick out of it if there's a transforming Thomas on the shelf. Favorite Kamen Rider villain? Probably a toss-up between Dr. Maki from O's and Evolto from Build. I love that Dr. Maki is just very cruel and with an interesting reason for why he kind of wants to bring about like an apocalypse. It's a very weird motivation, and having such a cold character at the heart of it is just really menacing. And then Evolto is just such a master manipulator of a villain. I really like a manipulator villain. Do you never make to conventions in Northeast? I never make it to any conventions that aren't like within like 3 hours drive from me. I generally can't afford to fly out to conventions. I tried to do it for TFCon LA. Work got in the way. I'm going to be doing it for TwitchCon in September, so I will be making a trip out there. Really, there's just never been a show in the Northeast that has really captured me enough to go, I'm going to pay for a plane ticket, a lot of takeout food and the Ubers to get around while I'm there, and you know, the hotel and the ticket. It's a lot of money just to go to show that I'm not, I gotta really be into the show in order to do it. Bananas or oranges? Absolutely bananas. Yeah, literally my favorite flavor is banana. Yeah, you can ask girlfriend, you can ask friends of mine if it's banana. Absolutely my thing. Do you speak Spanish or any other language? No. Enough Japanese to find someone who speaks English to help me, and that's about all I've got in me. I never really had the time to learn another language, and like when I was in school, like my school didn't have it as a requirement either, so I never really had to suffer through a Spanish class. Okay, finally at the end. So it's been over 2 hours. Thank you everyone who's made it this far. You are troopers, and I appreciate you all. To finish us off, help me help your channel grow. Does it affect you if I don't see the advertising / publicity? Is it just I can't see another Hero games? Technically, YouTube doesn't really like us talking about these types of things. But what I will say is my channel does a lot better when you leave your ad blocker off. The easiest way to help out this channel, turn off your ad blocker when you watch my videos. Even if you're going to hit the skip button on the ad, 5 seconds later. Yeah, just letting the ads start playing helps me out tremendously. If you're using an ad blocker, you're actively preventing me from earning the revenue from this channel that I need in order to keep it going. So, easiest support you can give me is just turn off an ad blocker, let the ad play, even if it's just for, a few seconds. Oh, and that is it. Oh my god, these things keep getting longer and longer. Okay, so I'm not going to do it this time because I want to see how people respond to a video that is literally over 2 hours. But if this continues and they keep getting longer, I will have to start splitting these and posting them in chunks. It might be over multiple days. It might be like 3 videos in one day. But I'm starting to think this is getting so long, it's kind of unfair to ask someone to sit an hour and 40 minutes just for their question to come up. And then, like 2 hour long video makes it really hard to skim through to see if your question got answered. So that's another factor. Might figure it out later. But for now, thank you everyone for watching. It's been a very long video. It's very late. I need to go to bed. But if you have a question for the next Q&A video, then please remember the rules. 1 question per person. Answers that are quick. Don't ask me to come up with 7 or 8 different characters. Don't ask me to think through thousands of characters all at the, try to just make it something that I can answer quickly. Everything in TOS, and then of course, if you got a comment on the video, please mark it as a comment. And there we go. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.